Hello and Merry Christmas to the denizens of PU Land, or Happy Hanukkah, or that's an intro, I guess. Last week we actually did a full podcast and then it didn't go up because recording problems. So, oops, it was fun. We had like an hour of us and Tlenet. Um, but yeah, so we're back now, and we're just gonna skip that last week, and we're gonna do this week 6 of LTPL and quarterfinals. Yeah, quarterfinals of PU circuit. So that's what's up today. What's up with you, Jad?
Not much, dude. As I said, I was just studying, and we're back on the Untier grind.
Back on the Untier talk grind. Hell yeah. Oh fuck, I forgot. I wanted to make a joke because last week one of the games we did, we finally did TJ beating Teddy. We did TJ versus Teddy game one, and the joke was gonna be, well, we did a TJ win. Guess we better scrap the episode now. We can't upload that. Damn it.
Oh, interesting.
I don't want to do. I don't want to do another take just for that joke. Okay. So, week 6 of LTPL, some more games. Some of them are interesting. Some of them are less interesting. TJ versus Raichi. This was not that. It was an okay game. Like, it was fine. It might have been like third or fourth choice. A lot of it was TJ having like a banned Primeape hitting buttons and hoping Raichi doesn't kill him before that happens. It came down relatively close, but to a point where I think TJ was pretty safe in his victory. Like, it was pretty reasonable for TJ. Just kind of being solid and not being too threatened by what Raichi had. You know.
Too much. Yeah, I think TJ did well to use the fighting stand that he set out to use. So yeah, that was like probably one of the key reasons why it's towards the top end of our replay list, I guess.
Yeah, and I like the Band Ape Scarf Shiftry, I think was the thing. I believe. Yeah. Which I thought that was pretty interesting. Like, yeah, cool stuff. Cool stuff. And I don't hate Raichi's team either. It's fun. It's more like Absol Ludicolo is a pretty interesting core. Both of them both of them feel like pretty solid little teams. The kind of thing that like I'd throw out and go, "Oh, I can't use this because I'm super perfectionist." But moving past any of that, they're realistically like pretty solid and fine.
Yeah.
Alcyone versus Lord ST. Alcyone brought Sawsbuck and Marini T-Spikes plus Combuskin, which is a lot of stuff we talked about on the Untier Talk that didn't go up. This is like, you helped with this team, obviously. But it didn't work out. LST just like kind of played this one really solid, I think. I don't remember a lot other than LST was being pretty smart about how to play around Sawsbuck plus Combuskin, which could have been pretty scary. But I think he did pretty well this game.
Yeah, I think I helped prep both teams because they both look like. Well, I mean, I obviously helped with Alcyon. LST looks like a very me style of team as well. So that was an interesting dilemma where I'm essentially playing against Alcyon was playing against this case
against the team. It looks like your team, but that doesn't mean you helped with it.
Oh yeah, no, but like inspiration or whatever. I don't know. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that like Alcyon was basically put up against a team that's like quite well structured, LST's team, and how Alcyon's team really works is like it needs for like Buskin or Sawsbuck to have like a really decent matchup, and like he could never really get any of them going. And I feel like that was a good on LST's part. LST played that quite well to make sure that neither of them got like a head start going.
Yeah, no, I agree. Chicken did come pretty close. Like, it was behind a sub with Jellicent poisoned for a while, but Jellicent wasn't toxic, which really made all the difference there. Kush versus Ziri, I guess, is the next thing to do. Was this the immediate win?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna actually play this replay on hyperfast because this game is
Did we miss? We missed Fintrexis as well. So we
No,
should go
Finch
back.
Rexus is one of the games we're gonna do.
Oh, I see.
So yeah, we're doing
Oh
both.
yeah, no, you're
Both the games we're doing are from LTPL, so we'll hit 6 replays now, and then we'll do Finch Rexus and Tasker Poe later.
right.
So yeah, this one Kush Ziri. Kush just calm minds with Oricorio and wins because Ziri just did not bring a flying resist, and also happened to not have anything that could check this, which I mean, you fucked up. Oh no. I
Yeah,
like
it's
to like I said this. I don't think I'm the greatest builder. I think I often randomly let things through the cracks. But normally, like I do a lot of testing, and that gets beaten out of me because someone's like, "Dude, this is really bad. Go fix your shit." I have the feeling that Ziri just kind of made this team, and no one really challenged it. Would be my guess because the lack of a flying resist is really blatant, and any flying type would fuck this up, which is exactly what
yeah,
happened. He brought flying
yeah. My
spam
concern.
too, like Dodrio fucked this too.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, Dodrio. Basically, as soon as Quillfish died, Dodrio won as well. So it's like, to be honest, I don't like the team as like a. I would have guessed that the Clef was going to be rocks, and then it would have like Scarf Torterra, so you could at least check the Sensu. But having no speed control at all basically screwed the team up. Like
That'd be pretty
you
hot.
had you had no way essentially of checking anything
Mm.
um,
Like
in this speed tier. And there's a lot of things in that 306 to 350 speed tier which can really do work. Having
yeah,
nothing
it's
like,
it's
apart from fake
only
out
it's
Kangas is
just fake out Kenga, but that can't be the only check to your Oracorios and your Simisears and your Swanas and like literally everything. That's all
yeah
you have.
you have
That and protecting with
yeah
Combuskin. It's is not.
yeah
I don't think a lot more needs to be
yeah it's
said.
not
Cush's team seems fine, I guess. Who cares?
yeah I mean like he just brought the right thing. I mean there's no real thing to talk about.
Yeah. Luthier versus me. Oh man, this one I'm not super. I did another thing where I should have been pretty good this game, and then I just kind of didn't. Like I fucked up early on, and I'm just not. And then I ended up getting crit, and it was the kind of thing that wasn't huge, but like with me fucking up early on, the game just really spiraled hard out of my control when this should have been fine for me. So yeah, I definitely am not super happy with this one. I think Luthier's team is
Yeah
pretty cool. Like, or I don't know, nothing too special. I guess not like super cool, but generally just like a fine, fun little, unique looking thing. I like. I think my team's pretty fun too. I think it generally works. He just kind of played solid, and I just kind of played a little dumb.
uh, yeah I think I like Luthier's team. It looks really well structured, and I think your way of winning this game was basically baiting in the Bronzor and then winning with either Sylvani Dragon, Cryogonal, or Swanna. But like essentially what ends up happening is a couple of those things get, I guess, played out. I don't know how to say that. It's like Swanna, you switch it into a Stone Edge and it dies. I mean, that's I think part of the. I think that might be part of the reason you lose. I think it
Yeah,
probably is because
that
that
was the
was
big
only
fuck up.
fighting resist.
Because very early
Yeah,
on, like turn what like early, I crit his Jellicent. He ends up sacking it like turn 3 or turn 4 or something. But almost immediately, I fuck up and switch my Swanna into a Primeape Stone Edge. Mostly because like Stone Edge made no sense to me as a play. That's like, why would you ever hit this? It just doesn't make any sense in this situation unless you 100% think I'm gonna go Swanna. Um, but he did, and I risked it, and that kind of just made up for that crit because obviously his Swanna check was the Jellicent, really. And with that out of the way, like we kind of just reset back to neutral, but without my main win con really would have been Swanna as opposed to anything else. And
yeah,
then after that, getting crit just kind of like really sealed the deal in. I'm just kind of in a hard place because like Banded Skunk was still putting in a lot of work, but I just needed a little bit of chip damage on his Drampa, and then the Drampa just crit me before I could get the chip damage. Like, well, now I can't kill this, and I'm just dead. So yeah,
yeah.
I'm not happy with this one. It's just like one of those games I could have played a lot better to at least match him. Uh, but instead, he just played better than me. It was like, bleh.
Okay.
PTF versus Ham. I don't actually. So PTF won this one pretty handily. I don't actually remember if he played really well or if Ham played really bad or if it was a bad matchup. Uh, the matchup's not fun. Like PTF gets rocks and 3 spikes, and Ham's remover is spin Alola slash that can't break PTF's Jellicent. I think that's pretty much just why he won. Like Ham's team is really standard looking, but it's weak. Like it really does not hit very hard at all. So I kind of like PTF just set up a bunch of shit. And it's like Ham, you don't have a win con. You can't win before I do. So all your mons are just gonna get chipped to death.
Yeah, I think the big thing, at least from my perspective, was Ferroseed was ridiculously good in this matchup. Like, if you look at it, Ham's only way of getting it was, we now know in hindsight, but it's like expert belt primate.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that's not generally how you want to take it out, and especially when your way of removing hazards is going to be rapid spin on a Lola slash. The Pharaoh Jelly matchup is just going to be suck. It's going to be really bad.
Yeah.
And so what you would think is that somebody like you, he would think about that and then say like, okay, my matchup sucks versus Pharaoh and Jelly. I'm going to use like Gracium Simisit or like a really strong breaker like Drampo, right, to really try and force the initiative. But instead, he brings like the rest of his mons are sort of like passive, and they do okay versus Pharaoh like Jelly, but like not when they constantly have to switch into SR plus 3 spikes. So, yeah, he kind of shot himself in the foot here. And then PTF just played out immediately his win con and didn't really struggle at all to put it off.
Yeah, pretty much. Like,
which is unfortunate.
I've made teams like this, and I know exactly how bad it can be when you go, oh, wait, that spikes matchup's just rough. And the only way it's really doable is if you have stronger Pokemon to just kill them before everything gets chipped. But this team is just like too fat without a defogger. It just doesn't work in this meta. Finally, for LTPL.
Just really quickly before we move on, like I think this game is also like a good reason why we're seeing a lot more like Rotom Frost as like a instant defogger rather than rapid spin at a Lola Slash, because you can get the instant defog off much faster and like 100% you can get it off. Whereas, with a Lola Slash, it's obviously dependent now. Everybody's using Jellicent, so
free clear body blocking defog though.
Yeah,
that's what we need. Buff spikes.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally for LTPL, Meru versus Evagero. Meru just kind of wins with stall. I think Evie said after the game it might not have been so bad because there was a banded Victory Bell that could have done a decent amount of work, but it was Leaf Blade instead of Power Whip and was just like a little bit too weak to do a lot. So Evie really did not have the outs she needed versus stall. So that was just kind of like a stall win. Big rip, unfortunate. Second week in a row. That's just like, oh well, stall loss. All right, well that's that. The first circuit set was Katut versus Lockjaw. This one I don't remember a lot about other than Lockjaw just kind of won. I don't remember anything special happening in either game, to be honest. It was just like, oh, Lockjaw just kind of did a thing. There wasn't really much hacks or any like crazy plays or anything. I don't think either of them like played especially well or especially poorly. They just kind of hit the buttons and like, I don't know.
I think there was a bit of hacks if I recall correctly. I think.
Was there? I don't even. It was just I just tuned out of this set. I honestly like Katut can be a pretty interesting battler when he brings funny stuff, but he didn't, and I thought they were just very boring, to be completely honest, which is not like a good thing to hear from the guy who's supposed to be reviewing these and telling you what happened. But honestly, this series is just like whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, a little bit on Katut's teams. Like Katut's been bringing more and more these days, like more standard teams, but with like one instead of like multiple meme sets.
Mm-hmm.
So like on this team, it was like the Dragonian Malteria, which is like much far gone from what he used to.
That's a relatively pretty standard thing right now. think.
Yeah, I mean it's not like crazy, but it's still pretty like rare. I would say rare. It's probably the
Okay,
best way to
yeah.
describe it. But yeah, I think just generally, he's just gotten a bit unlucky with, I guess, the matchup a little bit because, like, for every thing, like Lockjaw structures his teams very well, and so that he'll have multiple switch-ins for the key threats in the tier.
Mm-hmm.
But what ends up happening is that because Katut doesn't really have that much breaking power, he sort of struggles to get past the initial like wall of things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
by the time Lockjaw sort of gets into the mid game, he has a bit more like health and a bit more mons to deal with the threats, and then eventually what ends up happening is just that Katut loses. Like,
No, I pretty much agree. Maybe that's like when I say boring and not a lot happens. I think that kind of sums it up pretty well. Where Katut just doesn't get a lot done. Because like, what's he gonna do? He just doesn't manage to do a lot or kill things. I think game 2 was a little bit different because he actually structured his team with a lot of threats this time. But Lockjaw still just kind of pulled things out. And I also agree with Lockjaw's like he's really well structured team, and then he just kind of plays them okay at best. But like
yeah,
his team, his team structure and just not really choking was pretty much all he needed to beat out Katut.
Yeah, pretty much. I feel like that's the thing that Lockjaw really needs to improve on if he wants to win the circuit. Is that his teams are fine for the most part, but if he wants to get past Rexus and then whoever wins in Skipcan, he needs to improve in that playing department. He can't afford, like, if he gets a good matchup versus Rexus, like a 60-40 matchup, he needs to be able to play those out. Like, he can't afford to play, more games than he needs to, basically, versus Rexus. So if you get that good matchup, make sure you use it, make sure you get ahead.
Mm-hmm.
And that will be the key. That will be the key, like, I guess, distinction on whether Lockjaw will win the circuit or not.
Yeah, and I don't just say that to shit on Lockjaw. I think like we've actually just straight up seen like going over between his circuit games, his last seasonal games and his LTPL games over like several weeks on this podcast. I've come to see like his teams aren't bad. He just kind of does. He just messes up, and at best, like I think versus Katut, he didn't really make any major chokes. But I think getting a step up versus someone like Rexus, he'll also need to step it up with his play to something that we haven't seen a lot from him recently. Is just kind of my analysis here.
Basically, if he doesn't play at his best versus Rexus, Rexus will win. Doesn't matter what Rexus brings at that point, like because he's a very efficient player and he'll play to whatever you have, whatever strengths his team has as well. So it's going to be he has to step his game up.
Mm. The next circuit set was Skipcan versus Telenet. Game 1, they both bring some like relatively more interesting kind of fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean Skipcan in this game.
I gotta pause. Hi. Mom? No, Mom and Xander are out.
Really?
They're out doing, I don't remember. Mom was at physical therapy. Xander went to meet her. I don't remember what was going on.
Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hi, Kramer. Hi, Graves. That's a nice greeting. Hi, Ollie.
So
Kramer, come here. Come here. Where's your Kramer? Where's your Kramer?
I am going to go down.
All right.
Yep. We're doing something. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, just in the middle of something. I wanted to be up here with them, but now I'm going to... Sorry.
Hello.
My dad came home 2 hours early, and he's like, "Yeah, I just left work." Like, that's I don't fucking know.
Nice.
So, good for him, I guess.
Yeah.
How long did it take you to notice? Did you do like a whole talk?
Not really. I just said that he doesn't have fighting resist.
Oh, yeah, okay, good. Okay, we're cutting back in. Okay. They both bring kind of more interesting, fun stuff. Skip Can has no fighting resist, as Hijad pointed out in the cutoff period that you won't actually hear. Telenet's team is pretty interesting in that it's like Mawile reliant, which you don't see a lot. I do remember a big. I do remember it being like fairly even back and forth, and then at one point Skip Can's sub Turtonator dodges Crabominable's Ice Hammer and kills it, and gets to stay behind a sub, and that was like a big problem in the game.
Yeah, that was probably the main reason Telennet lost this, because otherwise it was looking like Crabominable was gonna at least do enough damage to whether one of the other things won. So yeah, that sucked for Telennet, and yeah, Skip Can, he really needs to, I guess, the opposite of Lockjaw, like structure his teams a little bit better so that he can afford to not need to dodge moves to win.
Yeah, I guess. Game 2, Skip Can. I don't remember this one at all. I remember Skip Can had a Scarf Servine and hit Telenet's Simipour and like surprise killed it. And then after that, I don't remember how Telenet actually won. I really should have gone over these games again. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, I feel like what ends up happening is that it's super weird where it's like Skip Can doesn't do any damage. Like he just doesn't do anything with like after the Simipour dies, like.
Yeah, I'm playing through the game. I'm playing through the game, and Skip Can's basically just like double switched 50 times, and then hit the Sableye with his Alolan Sandslash and did no damage. Like he's actually done no damage in like 20 turns or 10
that's
turns.
What I'm saying. Like the problem. This is a big problem that you'll see with a lot of players when they are first coming up, right? It's like when you'll make an attack, right, or when you want to make a double switch. The reason why people don't just constantly double switch is because what's the point unless you're doing damage, right?
Mm-hmm.
So doing damage is one of the key like fundamental parts in Pokemon. It's why offense, like as a genre, as a playstyle, works. So in cases where you have like a lead, generally what you want to prioritize is just doing damage to the rest of the 5-6 mons, because naturally you'll come towards an end game where you'll have an extra Pokemon and they don't, and then you'll win. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but what Skip Can does is just sort of switch around, try and avert Telenet's, like constantly keep trying to keep Telenet in check. But what ends up happening is because Telenet is doing damage this entire time, like not significant amounts of damage, but just like enough damage.
He eventually kills Skip Can's Mons. Yeah, I think we.
Yeah, he brings himself back into the game.
Mm-hmm. And there wasn't really a lot to it. Like I played through this game real fast, and it really just was Telenet. Like there's a reason I didn't remember it at all. Telenet just kind of like hits the safe option and hits things, and Skip Can takes no advantage of it at all. Really, like he definitely could have used that Aurorus a lot more. I don't know. Really, like just nothing doing from him. But then game 3, he does still manage to take it despite another very odd team. Because Jinx just is a real problem for Telenet's team. Telenet actually has the same team that Zeri brought. That time it was the no flying resist that killed it, and that still could have fucked this because he does not have a good Scyther matchup. Unless that's Scarf Scyther, but I don't think it is. Like Band or SD, definitely big problems for this. But actually, I can play through this one because it was a very fast game where yeah, okay, that's banded. No, that's offensive Roost Scyther. But yeah, basically what'll happen very quickly is that Jinx just hits buttons. Like there is absolutely nothing Telenet can do because this same team is just still not very good.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, the problem with this team, as we said, is that if something is in that 306 to 350 speed mark, where it can bypass some of the checks that Telenet has on this team, like it's a tough, it's super hard for him, and I don't know how he's managed to do it, but he's managed to build a team weak to Scyther, and then still Scyther dies. Like, how does that even happen, right?
Well,
So
Skip can just sack Scyther because he didn't even need it because Jinx just like did everything here. I believe it got every kill except for the pursuit on the Kangaskhan. No, it didn't kill the Altari. It doesn't matter. Regardless, oh no, it did just kill the Altari. Regardless, like this was just a big failure on Lennett's part, I think, and yeah, I mean that he knows it. I'm sure. Like this team just does not function well. He made it with Ziri, and I guess neither of them really like quality checked it with someone else. Because to me, that's just super glaring. Like I guess when the biggest mon in that speed tier right now is Simisear, and you have the Clef and the Altaria and the Quillfish to an extent, maybe that's why you didn't notice. But yeah. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
I would have personally speaking, I would have liked to see how Skip can, like, we can talk about Talented team's weaknesses in its entirety, but I would have liked to see how Skip can would have dealt with like a Girder on this team because, or like a Primate.
Girder, I don't think Girder's a big issue. Primate, pretty annoying. Like just Scarf Primate is like free U-turn revenging, and then he doesn't really have a good switch in that's not super abusable. So yeah, Primate I can see, but Girder does not seem like a big threat.
Well, the thing is, because you have Scyther, right? And your defog is physical Skuntank. So you're not going to get past Mudsdale spamming Stealth Rocks on you or Regirock spamming Stealth Rocks on you. So Stealth Rocks are going to go up.
Mm-hmm.
And he sort of admitted that, right? With the Skuntank. I'm guessing he's going to have to try and play aggressively with the Executor, but as we know, like Executor isn't the most reliable breaker. Otherwise, it would have been brought more consistently. So, yeah, like it's weird to see how his team is structured. Again, like it seems very abusable from just the pure viewpoint that if he gets Stealth Rocks up, he has one extremely weak Stealth Rock Pokemon and one sort of weak Stealth Rock Pokemon Jinx. That can throw a real spanner in the ring, a spanner in the works. Like, but it's a shame that he just won instantly, and Telenet could never abuse those weaknesses.
Yeah.
Again, he would have been fine if it was Scarf Torterra and not Scarf Torterra with Forest Cloud.
Yeah. Okay. Keith run Scarf Torterra. Anyway, I do think though that when you actually watch these games and see the wins that are happening, like we have 4 people in circuit semis. That's how semis work. And I think there's a very clear divide between like you and Rexus and then Skipcan and Lockjaw, and the wins you guys have been having being a lot stronger. They're just being less to criticize, which is not a problem. Because I want to stress, like, it sounds bad to say, like, I think these guys are better, but like that's kind of part of analysis. I'm just judging on like what we've seen, the level of play. It's still impressive what they've done and where they've gone, but this is like just not a very strong win where I can say like he's been doing real good, and I don't think there's a lot of that objectivity in PU, mostly because people are friends with Skipcan and Lockjaw because they're like generally nice people, so no one wants to say that. And I don't mean that to be offensive. Like I'm really trying to go out of my way to explain this because people never like to hear it. But I think from like an analysis point of view, which is what this is supposed to be, because PU doesn't have a lot of this, Skipcan has not looked that strong, and I'm gonna be hard pressed to actually favor him in his upcoming semis game because this win was like silly. Don't kill me, please. I just do felt like it needs to be said. Like when I look for what I want to see in circuit finals, it's you versus Rexus 100%. And we'll actually get to you and to your series and Rexus's series to see like the better stuff now. Are you hiding under a desk now that I've said that?
I'm back.
Oh, you just left. Okay. I was saying some mad controversial stuff, so good. I'm glad you missed that.
What was the controversial stuff?
Just that I think Skipcan and Lockjaw have looked way relatively worse, despite being the other people in semis. And I do think like the best finals by far would be you versus Rexus.
Probably from like a mental and a broader perspective, it probably is. But I feel like Skipcan and Lockjaw have one thing that me and Rexus don't, and that's like wild card, or they're more wild cardy. So it's more likely if they play that they'll bring something crazy.
I mean, there's always wacky surprises and stuff, but I feel like straight up, who's been playing better, who's been bringing better stuff, it's important to look at these wins and go, these were not as strong. There are more clear things here. They're gonna need to step it up because now we're gonna go on to you versus TJ now. And for all like your flaws, for all Rexus's flaws, like this set from you is actually bad. So you know what? That might not be fair. I know you're capable of a lot better, but God, this set of you versus TJ was fucking awful and worse than Skipcan's win. So actually, maybe never mind. But yeah, I think it's important to separate. A lot of people have been like, yeah, Skipcan, crazy good up and comer. And I don't want to be that downer. And I have no actual problems with Skipcan. He's been a genuinely like cool guy, but the wins that he's gotten have been kind of disconnected from like, you know, there are PU players that I could see just being generally good. Like PU, if like you went to go pick up OU, I think you'd be pretty fine because like you've generally been like a good player and you know how to build. Whereas I have a harder time seeing Skipcan or Lockjaw be like a better player outside of the less competitive environment that is PU. It's hard to say this. It's really hard, and maybe people like really hate this perspective. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think with Skipcan and Lockjaw, it's like you're always going to get players that are a bit more raw and a bit more like need developing, need nurturing.
Mm.
We saw that in what was the one that just passed?
Winter seasonal.
Yeah, where me and you played in the finals. Skipcan, I think winners finals was me versus Skipcan, and then I beat Skipcan into losers finals, and then he played you in losers finals and then lost instantly. So we essentially sent both Skipcan and Lockjaw into major tilt, going straight from winners into losers, and then straight out of the tournament. Which, like, usually that doesn't happen if you're playing at a really high level and you just lose. It's usually when you're getting a win and then losing a game and then getting a win again. It's like there's more trading of wins there. So I have no doubt that they'll improve in the future. I think, especially if they play as much as they are now, they'll definitely improve playing wise. It's just a question of can they improve in the short amount of time that it is until semi-finals and finals.
Yeah, and they've still done a lot. They've still come pretty far. Maybe if we had a different bracket. That being said, I think if we had a different bracket, I don't know that we would have seen either of them get to semis, and I don't want to favor them. Welcome to Untier Talk, shitting on relatively newer players. Woo! That being, with all of that out of the way, because I feel like that doesn't get enough credit, where people just go OMG GOAT to a lot of people all the time for shit that's like relatively not as good. Like, I know we make fun of tours for it, and then people do that here all the time. Like, just give massive credit to people who have not, I don't know, shown up a lot. Myself included, because what the fuck have I done, really? Like, anyway, all that being said, you and TJ were really atrocious in this series. Oh my god.
It was really bad. Like, I was really not up for this series just because I was super ill at the time. So I was blaring music, studying, and then TJ said, scheduled times in like 5 minutes, and I was 30 minutes late, and I was like, I really cannot be bothered. But I'll entertain the thought of playing him, and I'll try and make it like interesting or whatever. So yeah, and then the game 1 happened, which was basically I annihilate TJ for like 10 turns, and then I choke, and then I lose. That's basically what happens.
Yeah. TJ has a different looking team, but that's at the same time familiar. I don't remember. Did he bring this versus Raichi? Is this the same team? No?
I don't think so.
No, it just has a Shiftry. I don't know. It feels kind of familiar. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, you slap him up early and then somehow managed to lose the game that like never ever should have been lost. Like this like if I just play the first 10 turns, people can be like, "What the fuck? How did Jad lose this?" if they didn't see the rest of it. Yeah, this is a very silly game. Rock 2 Mudsail's cool though.
But I mean, like, I was sort of playing, as I said, like super tilted, making bad decisions. Yeah, it was. To be honest, if you saw the state of me, you probably would have expected me to choke this game. The good thing though is that straight after this game, I kind of just didn't feel any emotion towards a choke. I was like not nervous or anything. I was just sort of like, okay, I guess we play game 2 then. I've been playing a lot of game 3s as well, so it's been like a common thing. It's very rare that I get O2'd out, so I was pretty confident that no matter what I brought, that I could take it. But I mean, then it goes from me choking to TJ choking the next game, which is highly amusing. I guess.
So this is the point of turn 13. I'm showing up. Where it's like, how the hell did Hijad lose this game? Short answer, he just like does not preserve his mons and somehow Dodrio ends up winning. So yeah, like big choke from Hijad. Then game 2, big choke from TJ on the other hand. Also, for what it's worth, I just want to say Hijad gets to be like, oh, here's why I wasn't playing so good. I was sick and blah blah blah, and I'm capable of doing better. I'm sure people who also play bad in the other games that we've criticized have some reason or other. It's not like he just gets more leeway or anything. It's just that we get to hear his explanation. Other people, like, you know, because he happens to be the one on the podcast. But I don't want to be like, oh, well, that's totally understandable and that's okay for you and not okay for DJ or whatever. Because who the fuck knows? So.
Yeah, no. I'm not using it as an excuse, to be honest, because like it's like a thing. Like that's not really excusable. Like if you show up to SPL, for example, and are sick and you have to play a game, you lose, you still lose. Like the same 0-1 as any other loss.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify there.
Yeah. Sure.
Anyway, yeah. So game 1, you choke really hard. Game 2, TJ chokes really hard. Because and then game 3, you both choke really hard and you end up winning. Well, I don't know that you choked super hard as much as like had really weird shit and your win con ended up being like, I need to hit 70% accurate moves, and you probably wouldn't have had that chance if TJ didn't like fuck up quite a bit. But this was a dumb game, and I recommend you don't watch this set. Like it was
game 3 was interesting. I don't think it was bad.
It was interesting, like, but it was pretty dumb.
Because here's the thing, right? Because I've seen like TJ say that the game was like a really easy matchup, or not an easy matchup, like a 50-50 matchup, like an even matchup. But from my perspective, I was going into this game, I thought this matchup was dreadful because I had Spidef bulk up Gramble, so I couldn't get through his team. I couldn't get through Tangela. I couldn't get through Tangela with the SD Sylvani Fairy. He had 2 checks to Drampo. He had the Carbink and the Cryogonal and the Hitmonchan potentially. He had Skuntank for the Bronzor and Cryo for the Swanna and again the Tangela for the Primate. So I had to do some crazy shit basically to win this game. And what ends up happening is TJ plays super weird around certain mons. Like he doesn't make the consistent switch, which he should have been doing. Like this game for TJ should have been consistent switching and then chipping away using Drampa, Skuntank, and then Hitmonchan. But he ends up not doing that, sort of switching in or sacking Cryogonal to
he sacks Cryogonal to Grand Bull when the Tangle is still at 100% health. He sacks Carbink to Drampa, basically like risking that when that didn't need to happen. And obviously like Drampa did have to hit 2 Thunders to kill it, but that's not really much of an excuse. And then like Yeah, okay, I can see why you think a lot of this was the matchup, because he did very nearly manage to win at the end anyway, despite like all the weirdness, because
Yeah, because
you're in a really
on the skunk.
yeah, you missed a hurricane on the skunk, which also made things like pretty awkward. And at this point, Swana, like, you need the Swana to sweep here. That's
Yeah,
what.
as soon as Cryo died, Swanna was my win con, so I was heavily playing for that. And it was super hard because even though I needed to defog like quite a lot, I couldn't defog because Swanna was my win con. So it was about keeping myself, or like not letting myself do a dumb play. But yeah, it was super bad at that point. And I thought I'd lost the game as soon as, because I thought TJ would click Pursuit with the Scarf Skun Tank. But he ends up, I guess, choking, not clicking Pursuit on the Swanna, which he always should have done.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, ends up losing the game.
Yeah, like I do want to say, like, as silly, I keep going, this is really fucking silly. Like, I don't know anything that was going on. This still was just like big TJ choke, I think. Yeah, just really weird stuff. And like I said, as much as like, skip can lockjaw real weird, I don't think your win was any better here. Your whole series was just like
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's yeah, I don't understand too much TJ's prep ? I don't think his team was like all that, like, usually I guess when you play bulk you'd sort of either try to out bulk the person or like bring a few breakers. He sort of tried to do both, and I feel like it negatively impacted him a lot.
It was weird. It was very like, I really want these specific Mons to have a good matchup, and if not, I could very easily see him just like not having anything to do. Like, I don't know. Anyway, last series before we hit the games we actually wanted to go over, a good like 40 minutes in or whatever. Me versus Rexus. Really what I feel like in the end this series came down to was I just made like multiple. I wanted to be like,
head ass plays. You made head ass plays.
I don't think it was the plays as much as just I decided this is what I'm going to expect his sets to be, and then when they weren't, I was like, well, I'm fucked now, because I wasn't really playing well around like what he could potentially have.
Yeah, I feel like,
which is like a really weird way for me to just completely fuck up. Like, it felt very different to most like fuck ups I've seen people do or people have, because a lot of this was like, so this game, I see his Hitmonchan be Ice Punch. He's definitely going to be Spin on this. He's definitely going to be Drain. Like, why wouldn't he be Mach Punch? It's a Hitmonchan, especially on a team like this with speed issues. So I go, okay, I'll go hard Swanna. And then no, it ends up being Thunder Punch. So I'm like, okay, he must not be Spin. So my next play is to like go for setting up rocks. And it is Spin. It turns out it's Drain, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Rapid Spin, but just no Mach Punch. And like, that threw me, because that was twice I like kind of tossed my game plan away. And especially with sacking the Swanna, which was very much my win con. Also, I fucked up. I believe this was the game I crit the Jellicent. I think versus Luthier. Yeah, I said versus Luthier. My Girder crit his Jellicent, and that meant Swanna was my win con. This was actually the game where turn 4 his Jellicent is dead, my Swanna is really good. But then almost immediately I risk it on the Hitmon. Yeah, like right here. Hitmonchan goes for Ice Punch. I'm like, well, okay, it's not going to be Thunder Punch. It's not going to fit both and all that. And then I just sack Swanna. And this is really just the game. Because I needed Swanna 100%, and I just lost after that. Which was just really silly, and I can't feel that bad about it in retrospect, just because like, that's a pretty wild set. Thunder Punch, Ice Punch, Drain Punch, Rapid Spin, just no Mach on this team. Like, that's pretty wild. I could feel worse about that, but like, that was a pretty dumb way to lose.
Yeah, you could put it down to the weird set. I personally didn't agree with the team selection, or not necessarily the team selection, the structure, because having one fighting resist, you're always going to run into this problem where Swan is your fighting resist, defogger.
No,
Also really
but like
useful offensive.
that's not actually how this team functions in practice. Like what this team is meant to do is look worse versus fighting types than it actually is. Don't ask me why I thought that'd be funny. But I was like, what if I built this team with less fighting resists, but then it looks like it has a Silvally Fairy? And then if I face a Primeape team, the goal is to win with Z Raindance Swanna, because pretty much every Primeape team is weak to it because they rely on Primeape to revenge kill things. That was basically the idea behind it, and I really don't think it's too terrible versus most fighting types. It is like very specifically this kind of Ice and Thunder Punch Hitmonchan that I can't check with either the Swanna or the Torterra. That things start going downhill. Like people say it's the fighting thing. This was an intentional decision by me, and maybe you still think it's really bad, but I don't really think it's that as much as it needs to be something like this Chan that can hit the Swanna and the Torterra to be like that level of problem.
Yeah, I don't understand necessarily why you want to structure. I guess for the bait, but I mean, like even the bait, the benefit isn't worth the drawback. Does that make sense?
But it's not actually as weak to fighting types as you look. That like literally is my reason. Yeah. It's not actually that bad versus most fighting types in general. Like this is a very specific kind of something you don't see.
Yeah,
that's all. Like people were blaming it on the fighting resist in the team. I disagree. I think it was just my play. Like if I just played it better, that's all.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, I guess you can put it both ways. You could say if you didn't really need to risk a Swanna. So I was personally, I think it was me, Specs, Tone, and Slenit. I think we were in a call when you were playing the series. I was urging you not to go into the Swanna at the time because it was like that was your thing. That was your win con because you got past the Jellison. That was his main check for it. You get Rocks, and then you have a chance at Swanna. But what ends up happening is that obviously you get to lose instant. So you don't get any value.
Yeah, and honestly, it didn't even cross my mind. I was like, there's no way he could be Thunder Punch. It makes no sense because this kind of team, you're telling me he's going to drop the speed control. He's going to do it for, like, the ability to hit Jellicent, something which is a bit annoying, but, like, you've got an Abomasnow and the Pom-Pom, and, like, it's going to want to try to beat an SD Sandslash. Like, that just made no sense to me. So it didn't even cross my mind. I wasn't even like, oops, sorry. It wasn't even like, I'm going to be risking Swanna. I was like, no. There's just no way I'm just going to hit Swanna. That seems free and easy. Like, it really was that, like, clear cut. Oh, this is safe. Free. No problem. Zero risk. That was my thought process, which is a bad thought process. It's not good. And yeah, that's like the only really interesting thing worth talking about in the game. Game 2, I bring this Gourgeist team, and Gourgeist has the potential to do a lot of work. I'm actually like real, and what happens very early on is I kind of use Simisear to do a little bit of damage. It dies. I was fine with this. People were like, that's the major thing in this game. No, Simisear was not that major in this game. And then after that, I basically go Gourgeist, and it's a sub-disable leech Gourgeist, sub-disable leech flamethrower. It can do an inordinate amount of work. And then he gets a 12% roll to break it with Volt Switch from his Electros, and I just kind of get fucked up. And
yeah,
part of that is like, that's just really unfortunate. I 100%, like, it's hard not to be convinced that I would have won that without the roll. On the other hand, there's no reason not to EV my Gourgeist to live the Volt, for its substitute to live an Eel Volt Switch 100% of the time. There's no reason for me to not EV to do that, and I've done that now, and like that's a builder fuck up as well. So I do still blame myself for that because it should have happened before this. That shouldn't have even been a risk. And then he told me after he actually went Eel to Volt because the analysis set and the set on the calc is only 152 HP Gourgeist, so Eel Volt actually looked like a reasonable play. So like, there's so much that could have gone into that, but yeah, that was my big thing this game. I really did not like when Katut was like, he brought a Gourgeist and that hurt his chances of winning. Absolutely not. I still like Gourgeist. It could have done so many things. Like, it should have just won this game. And then that happened, and that was not fun at all. At the same time, I did also manage to choke the late game. There was one point where I risk him being T-Wave Silvally, and I didn't have to. And again, that didn't cross my mind. I wasn't really thinking about T-Wave Silvally. And then when it happened, that was also like a game-losing thing that I did not. I just didn't need to let happen.
Yeah, was the reason that you didn't trick room with Jellison turn? I don't know what turn it was. It was like towards the end game. You had Jellison in versus Pharaoh. You killed the Pharaoh, and then you had it versus the Crab. Is the reason you didn't trick room there because you were scared you're going to get counterswept?
Well, if I trick, I'm pretty sure, was I not in Thunder Punch range? So yeah, this endgame actually came down like really close and interesting.
Yeah, Thunder Punch.
Yeah, okay, so right here, I kill the Pharisee. Yeah, okay, so what I was thinking was, he goes Hard Crab. My assumption here is that if I Trick Room, I believe there's a small chance Thunder Punch kills, but more to the point, I figured because he went Crab, what he wanted to do was chip me with Ice Punch, ensure I couldn't Trick Room, and then try to do Oricorio things. I thought this was kind of him being like, yeah, I'm a little bit screwed. Because my assumption this whole time was that after an Ice Hammer, he would be slower than my Jellicent because he was not max speed Crab. And then, like, I do a lot of playing around. We do a lot of switching and change-ups. And, like, I also thought going Geist was just safer, to be honest. Because, like, there's no way...
Yeah,
like,
because as soon as that happened,
because also if he Ice Hammers, I should be pretty... Yeah, I guess there I probably should have just risked the Trick Room.
Because, you know from the Mudsdale, like, because it would be different if you didn't know exactly how many attack EVs the Crab had. Like, if you didn't know if it was Adamant or you didn't know the item or whatever. But you knew the set and you knew that it was Jolly, so you knew that the roll was about, 65%? 65 to 77.
No, I didn't know it was Jolly. I did not calc that versus the Mudsdale to check Adamant versus Jolly.
Yeah, that's where I would, because
like I'm just learning this right. I'm just learning this right now that it's a Jolly Crab.
Yeah, that's my that was my take on it, because as soon as I saw the Crab do basically nothing to the Mudsdale, I was like, okay, it's definitely not like a Zima. If he's not Adamant, he has to be like a weird, maybe either bulky set or Jolly max attack.
Let's see. Yeah. Okay. I was thinking Adamant Crab. That's what. Okay. I was thinking Adamant Crab, which is about a 50-50 roll to kill the Jellicent on 77. Sorry, I'm like trying to go back and remember what. Okay, so I was thinking Adamant Crab that was not max speed, pretty much this whole time. I'm just learning it was Jolly now. So even like right here, Trick Room would have been a game-winning play. And then what happens is that I just start playing around because I'm still thinking. After an Ice Hammer, I will be faster than it, and that's kind of what I need to do. So yeah, like a couple turns right after, right here, Silvally comes in. I'm like, okay, if he kills my Gourgeist, I can go Jellicent Trick Room and win. And if he doesn't kill my Gourgeist, I'll kill him, and that's not a problem. This is where the fuck-up happens, because I stay in, and then he T-Waves me. And that was not good. Like, I could have gone hard Drampa here with basically no risk. But I don't. I even could have subbed because like he can't kill me because then I'm in the Trick Room. But yeah, once he's able to T-Wave me, now the Gourgeist isn't even faster than his Crab. The whole thing kind of goes downhill. I still could and should have won this game, even after I get paralyzed 4 turns in a row here, which was pretty funny. But the whole time I'm thinking after an Ice Hammer, I'll be faster than the Crab because he's not that fast. Also right here, I could have Trick Roomed, but I didn't know that because I figured, oh, he's going to Ice Hammer and then out slow me. The whole thing goes downhill. I definitely fucked this game up thinking the Crab was something that it wasn't.
I think that's also like a common. I think when you're playing a game, what you should be doing is whenever a mon makes him, you should immediately not imply the set, but you should sort of derive the set based on the calcs, based on the damage it's doing, because you know half of the stuff on the screen, you know exactly the EVs on that on your side. So it just comes down to deriving, I guess, how much attack, how much speed, how much bulk things have over the course of the game. And yeah, a lot of people don't do that. They just sort of imply things.
Yeah.
Often can be people's downfall.
Well, I never could have known its speed, and that was like really big.
Yeah, but you can.
But I could have like
derive the speed from the bulk.
No, the earthquake roll from Muds is like a bit too awkward to really get that. Like I did try that a little bit, but yeah, I never checked for Jolly. I think is a much more important thing to have looked for, because that's just like straight up, okay, well, I could have just trick roomed on the crab there then. Yeah, like there are a lot of things that I could have done and I did not do. And it's kind of like a Luthier thing again. I wouldn't have needed any of that if I didn't kind of get fucked with the roll from Eel, but at the same time, that keeps happening. At the same time, I shouldn't have needed to get the roll if I just played better. So this is kind of where I feel like a lot of my games have been landing recently, where it's a mix of like I get screwed, but also I fucked up, and if I hadn't fucked up, getting screwed wouldn't have mattered, and if I hadn't got screwed, I wouldn't have the opportunity to fuck up. But I'm kind of like spiraling myself out of these games. I should not have lost this series in 2, but I was not being super good here. Whereas I think Rexus didn't really ever play like that wrong or bad. Like at pretty much any point, I think he was being pretty fine. I think this game I just had a massive advantage at matchup with the Jellicent and the Gorgeist both being super good. And like I needed to get multiple things wrong and like kind of get unlucky to just lose this game, which is just super my fault. I think he played this pretty good, and I think he definitely had like the strongest win of any of our circuit sets. This was like I felt like I started so far ahead.
Yeah, my concern was mainly when I saw the early game, I was immediately thinking that the crab was be doing the work, just because it could pretty much 1v1 everything on the team, on your team specifically. So I was disappointed to see that he essentially sacked his crab, which could have been really useful to the Mudsdale. Like he lost a lot of health in that like transaction. And I think that wasn't a good transaction on his part. But aside from that, I feel like he played pretty well to make sure he always had a chance. It was always like
there's some other small things, like the way he played Oricorio was kind of weird too at some points. But yeah, overall I think he just came out of this looking pretty solid and certainly a lot better than me. This was not great at all. I was also super fucking I left this game for like 20 minutes because my dad was having he has like some vertigo issues, and he was like, yeah, and I need to like go help him out with that. And then I came back, I was like, oh god, I gotta get my brain back into Mons. So that wasn't good. And I bet like all the spectators, I don't even know what they were thinking, like, oh, he's just gone for 20 minutes, cool.
Yeah, we were just taking it, saying how bad of a situation you're in, and then you ended up being a really good situation.
Oh yeah, everyone thought it was in a bad situation, but Gorgeist was so fucking good here. Like Gorgeist is awesome, and yeah, don't hate on that.
Know exactly the set. We didn't know exactly.
No, yeah, nobody knew, so that's fair. So yeah, that's Circuit. Rexus is going to play Skipcan? No, Rex is going to play Lockjaw. You're going to play Skipcan. Yeah, I do expect a Rexus versus you finals. I hope for it. I don't know who's going to win that. You're also the top 2 seeds, so that's interesting. What did you say?
Yeah, Skipcan versus Lockjaw final inbound.
I hope not, to be honest.
That would be a great spectacle for Pete.
I don't think it'd be a good spectacle. I think you versus Rexus would just be more interesting games.
True. I mean,
unless you're like back to what you were doing this week, but in general, from what we mostly see from you guys, I think would be vastly more interesting, to be completely honest. I think the better a game is, the more interesting it is. They bring more wacky stuff and they make more wacky plays, but I don't think that actually makes for a better series.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I think, yeah, regardless of what happens, I think it's nice to see Rexus, who's taken to PU quite well as like a tournament player. He's been really part of the community since playing in PUPL, which is nice to see, and he's done well in a lot of the tournaments that he's played in.
Mm-hmm.
So it's good to see him integrate into the community. And if me or Lockjaw or Skip can win, then it's a PU main winning the PU ribbon. So I think no matter what ends up happening, it's not a bad look for PU in the slightest.
No, well, I don't know, because I'm gonna be completely honest. The Skipcan Lockjaw, cool dudes. Again, I don't have an issue with them, and it's not their fault that they're like newer, or I don't think they're as good, and maybe other people do think they're as good. But I think ideally you want the ribbon to go like to a much better player, and I think you or Rexus would both be like fine and pretty deserving. I think they'd be like, you know,
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think
you know,
it's
like,
true that they haven't been the best players, but I mean, regardless, it's good to see the ribbon stay, I guess, within the PU community in that sense, and maybe if they're not great players now, they'll turn into future great players, and
I think they're both. I think they're both gonna like stay good and keep improving regardless. Yeah, but I think for like right now, I think you and Rexus would just be better winners. I have no idea how much hate I'm gonna get for this, especially since I'm the tier leader. Like that's generally not a good look, but there's a certain level of like maybe this will get taken as just like tier leader shitting on dudes he doesn't like or whatever. Maybe it's gonna look super bad, but I still just gotta have like my same general opinions, and I don't think it's. I don't know, it's weird, because I feel like this level of criticism is actually, like, fairly tame for any other tier, which is used to, like, having better people and having more developed analysis, but then you come to PU and, like, this is just absent. Like,
Yeah,
half the
it's
fucking
very
commentary you
disappointing.
see on games is just, like, weird random stuff that makes absolutely no sense. Like, what are you even talking about? I don't know what these guys are even saying. Or, like, there's a lot of blind support for people, which is really nice, and one of the things I like about PU is how nice there is, but there's no also, like, yeah, but here's what happened here, like they were being bad or whatever, like they're not playing super well, not like they themselves are bad, it's just critiquing play. I don't know, I have so many thoughts on this, but people tend to
Yeah,
not
I think
like
that's
them, which is
we need a
fair.
PU community thread. We need a PU community thread. That's what we. You remember the NU community thread ages ago?
Yeah, but it's different because that was everyone being too toxic, where this is like I think everyone's being too nice and not like
Yeah,
there's no
man,
serious
PU community thread.
analysis.
Stop.
But that's something I want. Maybe most people don't want that. Like, fucking fair enough.
Yeah, PU community thread. Everyone's too nice. Go back to
Yeah.
being mean again.
It's weird, and it's a hard balance to draw. But I do feel like a lot of the time when people are not liking what I'm doing, it does very much feel like me doing things that are acceptable pretty much everywhere else. And I do hang in a lot of different scenes. And then I come to PU and people are like, well, no, that's actually mean. Like, but is it, or do you just not want to be criticized? You just don't want to be criticized. That's not the same thing.
You literally, I think you live in like the two polar opposite regions of the entire like toxicity scale. If you that could even, because AG is like renowned, I guess, for being toxic, right? And you were the tier leader there. Are you still a tier leader in AG?
I leader, not really tier leader, because there's no tiering.
Oh, I see. Right. So you're the main.
Yeah, but like the people are mostly fine, except for like the doxers that attack AG. But like otherwise, it's the tier itself that's just a wacky hellhole.
But yeah, I think that's why I like the PU community because it's super active. And if it was super toxic, nobody would talk. So
no, it's cool.
I personally like it.
And we have like the most active and fun Discord of any of the Smoke on Discords. I think people who just come to PU don't realize like how different our off-topic and SM channels are from like anywhere else. I think it's super cool. I like what we have. I don't want to change things too much. I don't know. It's hard to start a dialogue, and I don't know how many people are even going to hear all this because like an hour into our podcast of fucking PU stuff. So maybe like. Yeah. Maybe there's no react. It's hard to start a discussion on this stuff. I don't really know where I'm going either. This was kind of like a bit of an unplanned rant thing. We had 2 games we wanted to do a deep analysis on, but it's already been like an hour, and we've gone more in like relatively pretty in depth on a lot of the games. We're just gonna skip over. So do you want to kind of just do like shorter things on the 2 games?
Yeah, might as well.
Yeah. Okay.
The games aren't that crazy anyway, so it's not like
No,
we're
there
missing
were
out.
there were a lot of like decently interesting things, but nothing like super. We really need to go super in depth here. I think. TJ versus Rex. TJ Finch versus Rexus was one of the pretty interesting things. Um, both would like breaker pivot balance. Just
Yep.
here's some fat things. Here's some pivots. Here's some breakers with Crab Vic on the one hand and Stout as being the like main real breaker on the other hand, but then like Ape, Tort, and Silvally all being pretty strong. So that's cool.
Yeah.
From
I think
from
this game
matchup
is always going to come.
from matchup, it could really go
Okay.
either way. It's just going to come down to like who can really abuse those breakers better. So that's fun.
Yeah.
Sorry, I need water. Starting off though, I really love this turn one. It's very fun.
Yeah, toxic.
Toxic Ape is pretty funny, and then Finch does the double toxic. Hey,
3 things toxic in 2 turns.
yeah, that's cool. A lot of this early game is really Finch just hitting the Silvally over and over, hoping it dies. It is Grass Pledge Silvally Poison. That's interesting.
Yeah.
Cool.
It's I think it's mainly to hit the Regirock and the Mudsdale, but
Yeah.
it's a pretty cool thing. I think generally speaking, this game is always going to come down to who abuses their breakers the best, and I feel like because Finch had a couple more of them, like Crab is a good breaker, but he also has Swanner and Vic to like secondary break on them and abuse the void. We talk about this a lot. Abuse the the damage that Crab does. Vic and Swanner do a really good job at doing that. So I feel like Finch's team was structured a tiny bit better than Rex's. Rex's had an opportunity to like, I guess, outplay with the Stoutland because Finch's normal resist really wasn't there.
No, like that's kind of what happens when you have a Mudsdale team like this. But real quick, remember Finch was actually in a losing position. He needed an Ironhead flinch to win this game. Like that.
Yeah.
That was the defining thing. So Rexus did ultimately manage to play around Finch. I think mostly because Finch just like took so long to be able to really wear down the Silvally with his victory belt, and that was all he was going. And Finch made some like good plays. Like there was the point he stayed in on Torterra's Earthquake with his eel. Like he definitely did some stuff. But Crab could not do a lot because it's not great versus Sableye, and Swanna was like dead pretty early on. So really, a lot of this was just Victory Bell slowly hitting that Silvally poison, which is what put Rexus ahead in the first place. And I think there's a few times like this, it just doesn't. It goes too slow for Finch, and he gives Rexus like too much time to do the breaking that I don't necessarily think he had to do. To where ultimately Rexus like not just breaks with Stout, but would have won with Stout as his straight up win con, which is pretty funny. Normally it's not just the breaker like breaking everything. You have a breaker and a cleaner. But no, Stout like really would have just cleaned this up.
Yeah, it's I think Stout in this meta is super underrated, especially given that not everybody is going to be using Regirock. Like a lot of people are leaning towards the
Torterra and Mudsdale.
The Torterra and Mudsdale, exactly, to stop the eel getting momentum, or forcing at least them to use U-turn, which isn't as great. It doesn't do as much damage on the pivot. So, Stoutland is super good. I think it might struggle a little bit with more people beginning to use like Metang and Bronzor, but I still think if you support it well enough, it's in there with a shout of being like one of the more prominent Pokemon that use in PU.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, at the end of it, Finch gets an Ironhead flinch on the Stoutland where he just would have won otherwise. That being said, still needed to like keep playing it well. After the flinch, Rexus goes hard Sableye, tries to double back into Stoutland, and Finch just tries to predict a double or call out a recover or whatever, stays in and kills the Stoutland. Like he still had to play well in a lot of scenarios. It's not just like he flinched a game he should never have won. He was being real bad, but like, yeah, that was the defining thing that ended up losing Rexus the game really was that Ironhead flinch. But I think an overall interesting game. Lots of like small good plays, and like Finch just had a little bit of a hard time setting up his win con. Because he didn't actually like have a lot to take on Stout well at all. Like, it wasn't just that Stout broke his team. He also like he wanted to win late game with Victory Bell, and that being slower than Stoutland definitely sucked for him. Or like presumably slower, because the way he was playing, like Victory Bell wasn't going to be checking Stoutland. Yeah, good stuff from them.
Yeah, it was a fun game.
Okay. The last one was Tasker versus Poe, Pursuit of Happiny. This one I just thought was really interesting. Poe ends up choking the end game, but I think the way he choked and like the plays that actually happened were just generally more interesting, despite this game maybe not being as quality as like some of the other stuff we looked at, because it was a fuck up of like something that should not have been lost. So does that. I just thought it like I want to explain why choosing this game, because afterwards people like no one mentioned this as something they wanted to see, although only like 2 people responded. But I just think like the way it was lost was just generally more interesting. Poe is one of your teams, and Tasker has like this interesting little Absol thing, kind of basic stuff.
Yeah, if I was the one in Poe's shoes, I think I would have been super confident in this matchup, because you have individual checks to each of Tasker's mons, with the only real potentially scary spooky thing being the pom-pom. If that pom-pom's a weird set, a mixture of the pom-pom plus the lantern, that can potentially fuck you over. So yeah, I'd prioritize 100% getting up Stealth Rock first, which shouldn't be too difficult given Tasker's team. And then winning the end game with probably Jettison will probably be the next port of call. But yeah, that was the one thing that I'd be scared of. The rest of the mons on Tasker's team, you can check pretty easily. So I was feeling confident for Poe in this matchup, but yeah, as we see, there's a lot of guessing and not guessing that happens.
Well, yeah, what really ends up happening is, despite him having like reasonable checks to Absol, he kind of consistently gets a lot wrong versus it because it's still tough. Or on the other hand, Tasker gets a lot of the plays and predictions very right, and that ends up being kind of critical in Tasker's victory here.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, I think the key thing is that it was constant. Like, I don't want to say. The thing is, like, with this type of team, you need to be getting up hazards and making momentum plays constantly. And that's especially true when the Sylvali is the main form of hazards control. You want to be chipping that with hazards constantly, because it's not going to be able to threaten you, like physically threaten you, but it is going to be super like annoying because you get up all your hazards and then you have to defog them and they'll pivot out.
But that does not happen. Quick, was it Rox Clefairy or was it dual hazards Ferroseed? I don't remember. It was Rox Clefairy, right?
It was Rox Clefairy.
Yeah. So very by turn 5. He's used Toxic with Ferroseed, and he's used Moonblast with Clefairy, but he's not set up any hazards. And that's already like like what you were talking about with, he's not getting the chip that he absolutely could be.
Yeah, and here's the thing, like, when you use this team, hazards, as we said, like, hazards aren't just important in terms of like a long-term thing. It's incredibly important the short term to make sure that the pom-pom doesn't get too out of hand. So I would have led and I would have clicked Stealth Rock pretty much on everything on Tasker's team, just for the damage. But
yeah, he even goes back to Ferroseed. He even goes back to Ferroseed and Leech Seeds. Like again, he's not setting them up, and that's kind of like the early game plays. On the other hand, he does get a lot of chip on the Mudsdale, and Kangaskhan is able to already start picking up kills, so that's nice. But like, you don't want to be winning with Kangaskhan. You want to be winning with just like all the hazards and stuff. So
yeah, the main thing is that when Mudsdale gets damaged on it, its fake out is going to be much more scary than when. Yeah, its fake out is going to be hugely scary as soon as Mudsdale dies, essentially. So you don't have that stamina boosting effect going on. So, but Mudsdale shouldn't really be an issue for this team because Fizz Death Clef easily takes on Earthquake. and Fizdef Ferroseed also can set up spikes, Leech Seed,
Yeah.
can do a lot of stuff.
But like
So-
it's turn 21 when he finally gets a spike up, and just my God, it's way too late for this game. It's just not good. And then
Yeah,
like the turn
plus-
after Pharisee dies, although at this point it was probably reasonable to sack it.
I think no, but here's the thing: like with Ferroseed in this matchup, it's like it has so much use as a like he could have got so much value out of it. He could have got easily all of his spikes and constantly getting Leech Seeds back. So to see it only ever get one spike up and not really do much
Yeah,
in the game
not
was
good.
kind of. I feel like that was important as well. That was an important reason as to why Pursuit lost this game.
Very, very not good. Tasker Tasker is also like consistently getting the real good plays. He U-turns on the Kangaskhan twice as Poe is just trying to be really safe there. He goes hard Absol on Clefairy, and then Poe switches out and sacks Drampa rather than taking the knockoff.
Yeah, he's done that. He did that multiple times.
He did that. He did that another point where he sacked Rotom. He said like Rotom and Drampa both literally did nothing. We're just play it safe, death fodder. Both of them.
Yeah.
Where
and he didn't need to play it like that. He had to, in my opinion, to play this game efficiently, he had to be going into Clef and ask questions about Iron Tail or whether Iron Tail exists later on in the game. Like
yeah.
It was never a play, in my opinion, to like sack loads of things essentially just to keep Clef, because Clef, it was important to his game plan, but it wasn't vital to the point where you needed to sack other things. You know what I mean?
For sure. And at the very end, turn 29, Tasker finally just stays in close combat versus Kangaskhan. When Poe's only Mons left, Kangaskhan, and then a Fizdef Clef at 93% and a Jellicent. And like again, if Poe had gone hard, if Tasker had U-turned, it would have been tough. Like if Tasker U-turns on the Jellicent, that Absol's coming in. If he U-turns on the Clefairy, the Pom Pom can probably come in depending on the set. But like, I really think going Clefairy had to be the play there and kind of see what Pom Pom is. Maybe you can go hard Kangaskhan. Maybe you can Toxic with Clef. Maybe like none of that ever really happens because he's just trying to keep it very safe, and it doesn't really work out.
He plays himself out of the game essentially because.
And at the very end,
when we talk about.
Sorry, at the very end, you have this 50-50 with Jellicent on Absol. He's going to suck or is he going to not?
He's made the safe play.
Go Clefairy. Just go Clefairy.
Clefairy, exactly. Yeah.
That might be the thing. But nope, he just dies to sucker. And that at this point, Pom Pom is just going to win the game. Like, there's just more could have happened here that it didn't, and I do feel like it was this is worth looking at and analyzing and seeing like what went wrong and why, because this very much should have been Poe's game.
Yeah, it's also, I would like to say Tusk played very well to keep himself with a shot the entire time. Like, for example, we identified obviously that the Rotom Frost at the start of the game was going to be his main, or Poe's main check to the Pom Pom, and the first time that we saw Pom Pom do anything was turn 30 or turn 32 or something, which is obviously he had the plan. Okay, I'm going to win this game with Pom Pom, so I'm not going to risk it unnecessarily or unneededly. So I'll keep it until the last possible moment where it's necessary, and then I'll use it. And yeah, he managed to catch Poe in like a spot where he didn't really have or a way to check Oricorio offensively.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like Tasker definitely still played this game quite well. Made like all the call outs really. Oh man, so this was quite a podcast. I think that's enough for this week. Thanks for sticking around, guys. Through the real talk, through the silly talk, through the silly games and the real games.
Gimmick corner.
Yeah, I just wanted to say thanks, and okay, we can do gimmick corner.
So Specs gave me a team to build for the Secret Santa. I posted that, I think, on Christmas, if I recall correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the Pokemon that he requested was Arbok, and I'm not a fan of Arbok in this meta. I think I explained it as being neither strong nor bulky, so it's sort of in that weird middle ground where it can't do damage, but it also can't take damage either. And that's generally not a thing that you want to be doing. So my solution for this was to make it like the ultimate endgame one, so to speak. And I was using Z Switcheroo, which boosts your speed by +2, and being that it's already quite fast, you outspeed majority of the Scarfers in the tier, which is quite a cool thing. And then also, when you have Coil, and then Gunk Shot, and then C-Bomb would be the full set, that's quite good coverage, and you hit at least a little bit some of the main things that will check you on a standard occasion. So it's actually quite a consistent endgame one, but obviously it's still nothing near as powerful as some of our higher ranked. But yeah. Also, somebody told me in the PE Discord, I think, like Z Snatch is just better, and it probably is.
It is.
Probably just use Z Snatch. It's probably the best thing.
100% better. Yeah, our box is kind of trash, but I guess that qualifies as a gimmick.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll see you all next week with Circuit Semis, the last full week of LTPL group stages, and whatever other bullshit happens. So, yeah. Thanks for listening to this train wreck. Okay.